let's talk about the career path without an MBA into these roles, with respect to how do you grow in your career now, right? The growth in your actual career aspects. And the second aspect we'll be discussing on this is joining the actual MNCs which have a demand for an MBA to join these roles, right? Where it becomes a thing. So now let's talk about firstly growth in career. How much does MBA matter? How to go about it without an MBA? How did you manage to do all of these things?
Cool. So as far as like progression in career is considered, right? So when I joined, the first company for me was Yulu, and it wasn't even a proper job. So it was just a 6-month internship that I joined for, and this was right out of college. And the selling point there for the company and for me was that they need people who want to work. And unfortunately, because they are an early stage company, they don't have the money. And that's the whole intern wala story, right? You come in, you take less money, do a lot of work. But I had tuned myself in for that. This is what I'm getting in for. I'm not a guy who wanted to do an MBA right from the start, because I think that whole academic framework doesn't suit me the way I like to learn. So I had made up my mind. I'm going to work for a few companies. And money wasn't the criteria for the first few years of my life. And then I said, I'm willing to do anything and everything you throw at me. And obviously, that takes a toll on your work-life balance and everything. But I was okay with all of that. So I think the first 1 to 3 years of my life was just trying to do multiple different types of roles, and sort of similar to what you would do in an MBA. But in an MBA, I think you're taught that in a proper course manner. You'll probably learn about supply chain management, how do you crack mergers and acquisitions and stuff like that. So there are different courses, but when you work for early stage startups, you can actually try that on your own across different projects. So in my first year at Yulu, I think I ended up doing I think we set up logistics, we did vendor management, we sort of handled supply chain, we did customer experience and everything. So that I think sort of substitutes for what an MBA usually provides. And if you do good at it, you can actually use your experience to then jump to maybe bigger companies which are having similar roles. And that is probably how you like take a detour from the MBA wala route. But obviously, as I said earlier, there are caveats to it. Like if you're going to do an MBA, you will probably not be as stressed out as I was in the first year of my life. You'll have that, and that is it. But I think one line that I always used to tell myself is that think of it as you're being paid to learn things. I mean, paid very minimally, but you're still being paid to learn things. And I think if you approach it with that attitude, I think there are ways you can bypass the whole MBA route to get to where you want in your career.
Okay. Now, if we talk about, let's say, joining an MNC, right? I mean, you cannot get into a growth and strategy role in ITC, for example, without an MBA. Do you see that as an impediment to your career, or do you see that you're doing well enough by being part of startup ecosystem, and you see there are enough opportunities for you within here to grow or to get to a desirable position, what you aspire for yourself in a career aspect?
Understood. Like as far as MNCs are concerned, I think the scene is slightly changing. I mean, it's not very radical as of now. That there are companies like these legacy companies which are slowly starting to see that hey, the startup ecosystem has been around like in the current state and form for at least about 15-20 years right now. And then there are people who have been working in the startup ecosystem for those 10-15 years. So there are some like the cream of the talent if you take. There are people who've made a switch from like startups and go and work for legacy companies in units where they want people to have like a startup mindset, right? Because legacy companies, if you don't innovate, you'll just get left behind. So you have to have some like at least a small team of people who are trying to figure out new things, and there people are getting in from the startup ecosystem. But again, that's a very very small number as of now. But I think going forward, this should change. Like I'm seeing like a lot of my colleagues as well. There's this weird trend that is happening where Indian startup employees who have like 5+ years of experience are being hired across the Middle East and the Southeast Asia companies. Like people who like you might have heard of Gojek. You might have heard there are also other lot of legacy companies in the Middle East, but taking people from the Indian startup ecosystem and giving them a chance, right? Because of what the skills they possess. So as of now, it is slowly changing. But I would say if you want to get into an MNC, taking the startup route as of now may not be your best fit. And also, I think if you work for an MNC, the you will definitely feel the culture shift versus what you're doing in a startup. So I'm not even sure if you'll enjoy that shift unless your priorities in life have changed and you want that kind of a role. Then you might have to maybe try and enter a smaller MNC and then slowly make your way up through the ranks.
Yeah. Right. I think rightly put there that if you're not ready, if you're ready for that kind of a change and you're very clear why you want to join an MNC, then it makes sense to go there. But then if from the start, if the idea is to join a big company, to join an MNC, then ideal route would be to do an MBA and not take the stressful journey of being part of startups and then burn yourself. Right.